Catherine. Welcome to Brisbane.
Thank you.
You would just like to firstly introduce yourself and tell us how Julie's Bicycle started.
Yep, my name's Catherine Bottrill and I'm the Director of Research for Julie's Bicycle, which is a not-for-profit company that started in the UK by some leading figures in the UK music industry that really wanted to develop a concerted response to climate change and thought kind of how should we as a business best approach this issue.
So was there one event that triggered that everyone thought we need to come together and have a conversation? And how did that, you told me how that conversation started.
Yeah, no, I think that, you know, it was 3 years ago and climate change had really kind of entered into the media and into kind of political talk, and a number of the founding members of Julie's Bicycle had, you know, cared deeply personally about the issue and had some experience with trying to implement that across into their business practice, but wanting to do something much more. And in fact, Julie's Bicycle launched at the eve of Live Earth, which was a series of major concerts being organised by Al Gore. And it was this kind of recognition that, yes, music, is it really the big gig that is the best way for us to approach this issue? And knowing that, you know, whilst being a wonderful day, it doesn't really change the kind of real nuts and bolts with how we think about climate change and how we reduce our emissions, and thinking we could actually do more in this space.
Yes,
so
it's practical.
It's practical, and so they met in a restaurant in Notting Hill, near Notting Hill, called Julie's, and Alison Tickell, who's the director of Julie's Bicycle, you know, always on her bike. So after a few glasses of wine, thinking, yes, we want to set this up, well, what should we call it? And it became Julie's Bicycle.
Yeah, fantastic. So what's happened over the last 3 years since those early brainstorming sessions?
Well, the first thing was to really understand, well, where are the music industry's greatest impacts? What does the music industry's footprint actually look like? And where should the priority be for action? And at the time, I was working at the Environmental Change Institute at Oxford University in an energy group. And so they wanted, you know, a really kind of rigorous, scientifically robust approach to looking at the emissions of the industry. And so undertook that first step, because once you know your emissions, then you can set out about managing it. And that work identified CD packaging as a significant contributor. Jewel cases, plastic jewel cases, venues, the built environment that the music industry operates in, and then audience travel, which, although not directly, you know, an emission of music industry, one that the industry actually influences and shapes audience. So that was our kind of priority areas, and Julie's Bicycle's gone about one, you know, the philosophy is to work with the community of business and to confer leadership with businesses to take responsibility for climate change.
So you've spent quite a lot of time researching that to get the evidence.
And because it was the first time for many of these companies they'd even looked at their carbon emissions.
There, isn't it? We know.
We know, and so it was.
A lot of lights on.
And so it was kind of thing, you know, it was really new and fresh. You know, it's not been part of people's day jobs to think about the kilowatt hours, the amount of energy that they're using in their venues, apart from the energy bill. Obviously, how much you're spending is of concern, but not the emissions. So the first was kind of building that understanding, but the second is being to really provide the resources and tools to really help those businesses successfully reduce their emissions. And that has been the real emphasis of Julie's Bicycle's work. So the research really informs the actions.
Yes. And within that, I mean, with the artists, you know, there's a lot of often, you know, the audience see the music industry through the artists.
Yep.
And so what the artist values are. So did you do much research or talking to artists?
Yeah, and in fact, that's been one of the things, like going back to the, you know, the artists that, you know, there are many artists that deeply care about this issue, but haven't necessarily had the platform of the business that helps them join up their kind of value systems around the environment and wanting to do work on the environment to engage with their audiences. So Julie's Bicycle has been actually, you know, we work with all the parts that are working directly with the artists, but we have been quite behind the scenes, kind of in those nuts and bolts issues with whether it's managers, agents, promoters, festival organisers.
Front line.
Yeah, and to kind of give the integrity around the issue that then artists with confidence can engage on this issue.
Yeah. So those 3 areas that you sort of identified, and so now you've introduced a certification scheme.
Yeah.
Just explain what that is.
Well, Industry Green is kind of the framework within which we see businesses and the industry approaching climate change, and it's got 4 key principles. And the first is like this commitment to the issue, to really kind of engage and be catalysed around it. And then the second is this understanding, understand the issue and how it pertains to your business. And it really is about that measurement, you know, measuring your impacts so that you can then develop the third principle, which is an improvement strategy to actually reduce your emissions and to reduce your impact. And the fourth, which is that critical part, is the communication. You know,
Right.
how to like talk about that with your colleagues, with your suppliers, and with your, very importantly, your audiences. And once you've kind of
through the media.
yeah, very much through the media, and it's also, you want something kind of simple and that kind of encapsulates that in a nutshell, so that people aren't confused.
So is it a handbook or is it a resource?
So it's actually a framework. We have a certification scheme that's and you get the IGI Mark. So if you meet criteria around engagement, measurement, your improvement, your reduction plan, and then how you communicate, you can actually acquire what we call the IGI Mark. And IGI Marks are possible in CD packaging, on festivals, and on venues. So for example, we worked with 10 iconic festivals this summer, Reading, Leeds, Latitude, Tea in the Park. You know, these are major kind of summer events, and all those festivals have applied for Industry Green, and it's a real demonstration of what they're doing on the issue.
Yes.
And then the IGI Mark has been on packaging such as the Gorillaz album. It's likely to come out on the Adele album later this month, Katie Tunstall's new album. And so it's just that little IGI Mark to show that packaging is meeting a kind of environmental commitment.
So talk about the CD packaging for a minute then, because I think it's very obvious in that live what the footprint is.
Yeah.
What is it around CD packaging?
Like the CD packaging, the jewel case is sort of 2 kilograms of CO2 emissions, and you can reduce that by up to 95% by just simply switching to the card wallet.
Digipack.
And so we actually did a piece of research that showed the emission savings, and so now working with the 4 major record labels, Universal, Sony BMG, Warner's and EMI, as well as the Beggars Group, which is a big umbrella of independents, and helping them actually shift their packaging and creating a whole market transformation. Because even though CDs, you know, we are moving to a digital kind of music platform, but you know, in the UK there's still over 100 million CD albums, so it's a kind of quick win savings. And then also we did some work about consumer preferences and consumers actually liking the CD package of card.
Yes. And what about artists? Because artists often prefer the cardboard, but it's being a price factor.
Yeah, and in fact,
dictated the jewel case.
okay, and it's about kind of getting economies of scale and really been working closely with that business supply chain of CD replicas, the record labels, the artists, to actually make the shift and then to make the savings. So it's been a really exciting project, and I think it's really a testament to the uniqueness and the importance of climate change to have, you know, we've had the 4 chief financial officers of those major record labels sitting in a room together, you know,
talking about this.
Talking about it, and I think that's the most exciting thing, is like they're building that community and the conversation.
That's great. So just on that then, obviously there's some really concrete things there that you're doing and that artists, managers, venues, promoters can do. So the whole spectrum from, you know, baby bands or emerging artists through to the big end of town. So is that something that Julie's Bicycle's engaging with? Yeah,
and in fact, like I just did this piece on touring, which looked at the touring supply chain and looked at bands from the club level all the way up to the stadium level, looking at their emissions impact and looking at where the spheres of influence are. You know, obviously if you are the big kind of stadium arena act, you're going to have a little bit more leverage into your business supply chain around certain actions being taken, and by those bigger artists kind of pushing into, you know, whether it's the venues they play, the festivals they play, they can actually support the smaller artists that won't have that same leverage.
Right. So what's an example when you say leveraging? Is it something like, you know, getting the council bus to the gig and that's included within the ticket, that type of thing?
Well, it's also like that leverage to say that you want to be performing at venues that are taking environmental performance seriously, providing a green rider, asking your venues and festivals, well, what are you actually doing around the environment? This is an issue that we care about, our fans care about. Do you have any certification, going back to the industry green, that you can demonstrate to us that you're serious about that? And then in your production, designing your show, like if you're a big arena show, thinking about kind of what is the show going to look like and what kind of technologies can we bring into the show that would reduce emissions. And then I think for the club artists, and we've sort of developed some tools, these free tools, to help artists manage, and look at what their emissions footprints are, and I'm going to be launching that here at the BIGSOUND. But it's going to be a free tool, so whether you're a club artist or whether you're a stadium artist, you can know what your impact is and what kind of choices you might have to reduce it.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you
Good
very
to
much.
have you here.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.